Wrestlebuddy podcast, all about wrestling. Subscribe and follow for more content.
Welcome, Wrestlebuddies, to another interview, and we've got an absolutely fantastic guest to you today with me and Jimmy. Damo, formerly known as Killian Dain. Thanks for joining us today, mate. How are you doing?
My pleasure. Doing very well. I've actually been playing a lot of FIFA this week, as we were talking about off air. And I got some good news last week with regards to my legal status. It's been a good week, shall we say?
Good stuff. FIFA, it's not going too well. But are you on Twitch and stuff like that, or is it just something that you're doing yourself?
Indeed, honestly, as a way to pass the time over the last 3 months, Twitch has been a lot of fun. It's actually been quite a positive community because I'm reading all these horror stories about it, and yet I've had a really positive experience on it. So I think they all know I'm really bad at games, so it makes it a lot easier for them to enjoy watching me fail, But no, it's a good way to pass the time while the wife's traveling and everything else. So I'll be on again tonight. Actually, I kind of do every Monday, try to do every Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or whatever else. But that'll change obviously in the next few weeks.
Happy days, Jimmy.
All right, so we'll get right into the questions. Then the last part of your stint in WWE, you were back down in NXT. So I'm just curious how that came about. Was it your idea? Did they come to you about it, or was it just how did you end up back in NXT?
So I think it was around January or February 2019, and we'd had kind of stop-start. We'd been on shows, been off shows, and then there was a period where WWE started cost cutting, where they stopped booking as many people on the house shows, and we started rotating. Only 2 members of Sanity would be on instead of all 3 of us. So you just kind of started realizing maybe the writing's on the wall a little bit insofar as what our long term will be. So I went to Hunter at the time, and I just said, listen, if there's anything, even as a one-off with NXT UK or NXT, I'd love to do it. And he said to me, listen, I know you're not the type of person who just wants to collect a paycheck. And that's the truth at the time. I definitely wasn't. Because at that, I think I was 33 at the time, and I felt really raring to go. And I think it's just one of those things. For me, it was like I could have happily sat there and just collected money and done whatever else, but I just wasn't in that mind frame at all. So I honestly thought nothing more of it. And then 2 or 3 months later, Hunter lets us know, you're going back to NXT, and you start next week or whatever it was. So it was a shame because we never really got to finish Sanity or in that way, with a final whatever. I think we did a Worlds Collide or something like that, but it wasn't even all 3 of us. It was 2 of us and a manager. So we never quite got to have that final hurrah with Sanity. But such is life. That's just the way of the business. And we all got to move on to what was next. So
well, as you say there, that you're very hard working, don't want to sit there and get a paycheck. Obviously, that's the Irish in you. I think I've never met a lazy Irishman in all my life. With Drake Maverick release as well, was that a work, or was he actually released and then he re-signed?
No, he was released for real, yeah. But honestly, what happened with this happened a couple of times where people maybe got rehired a couple of months later and stuff like that. They immediately went into cost cutting mode, and there's a difference between up there and with NXT at the time. So as far as I know, the NXT crew were like, hey, we could use him here. So and that's what happened. He offered to do the Cruiserweight tournament, I think, to finish it before he left. And he took full advantage, and that video that he did went viral, and he did really well in the tournament itself. And that was one of those things. Fair play to him. He's the guy who's always on the ball with these things. He's wears his heart on his sleeve as well, and he bared his soul to the world. And fair play to him. He ended up getting rehired off the back of it. So I mean, he's been in America for a long time, and I think he didn't want to leave. So I think it worked out great for him. So
speaking of Drake Maverick, how did the pairing between you two come about? The odd couple pairing.
Well, the funny thing, I thought it was a rib, to be honest, at the start. So I was meant to be feuding with him. We were meant to, like, one of the pitches to me was he was either going to win the tournament or he was going to have a big happy moment or whatever else, and I was going to attack him and go into a feud over that summer. But then one of the writers was like, "No, we're not doing that anymore." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of the way it goes anyway." And then about 2 weeks later, whatever it was, they're like, "Yeah, so we're going to put you in a team with him." And I was like, "What?" I just couldn't. I couldn't really get my head around it. Like, and it, there's been like a bunch of stuff, like failed ideas, that they'll give you, and then they get pulled at the last minute or whatever else, or they don't go any further than the phone call you have. That's part and parcel with the industry, whatever. So I was very like hesitant. I didn't believe it was going to happen, and then closer and closer to TV, it's actually we're going to be doing it. We're going to be doing it, and I'm like, oh, okay. And it's fun for me. Like the experience was great because first of all, I get on really well with him, and second of all, it's an opportunity for Killian was quite a boring character, so an opportunity to actually put something else in there.
Yeah.
Because I'd been a healer in a group, and then I was quite like an angry stoic person, whatever. And that was it really. Like I don't even think I cut a promo longer than a line in my entire time there. So this was an opportunity to show a bit of personality, and bouncing off him is a lot of fun because what you guys saw on screen is very similar to our actual relationship in real life. It's a lot of me just doing this. Which is kind of our my response to most of his words. So no, it was a lot of fun getting together, and Drake gives 100% into everything that he does. A lot of the backstages and the promos, the stuff that we did, if we didn't nail it first time, then he would punish himself. You know what I mean? So, but no, honestly, it was a lot of fun at the time, and we got to work with a lot of great guys over that period as well. Our main problem, the same as anybody's main problem this last year, was COVID. People getting sick, either us or our opponents or whatever else. So, so I imagine like that was, you'll find this out over the next couple of years. From a lot of other people, like so many plans and so many angles and so many things got derailed over the back of this because week to week, you didn't know what was going to happen next. Yeah. So, honestly, the fact that any of the companies were putting on decent products over this last year is actually pretty cool because there was a lot of what if and a lot of crazy circumstances.
Yeah. You speak of things not coming out because of the pandemic. So we'll go back a little bit further to your first run in NXT when you were with Sanity. They were successful in NXT, and then you got the call up, you come to the main roster, and didn't quite work out. Do you think that's because it was never going to be something that worked on Vince's shows? Or do you think maybe they just didn't get enough time to really click with the audience and get things rolling with it?
I guess it's a crapshoot because, whoever creates it is the one who knows how they want to present it. And the problem with having like crazy people is you need a reason as to why they're crazy. And like, I guess that was easier to explain in NXT. The way Eric Young first came into WWE and stuff like that with NXT, like you kind of explained who he was and everything else. I guess because you never really got to explain why we had like maybe motivations when we went up to SmackDown is maybe why the writers and whatever else didn't see any longevity for it. But like, don't get me wrong, like there was, I found this out when I first moved back to NXT in 2019, that the head brass watched a promo video of ours and loved it, absolutely loved it. And that's why we got called up. And then they watched the same video 2 or 3 weeks later and hated it. So that's kind of what you're dealing with on a day-to-day. And honestly, in my opinion, the main reason why I went wrong is, it was somebody else's toy, and then you go up to another company, whatever else, and they don't see the exact same thing, and that's fine. Like out of the three of us, like none of us were maybe that overall star quality package that maybe somebody was looking for at the time, and that's just the way it is. That's just life. And maybe we could have worked harder. Maybe we could have done more at different times. Maybe we could have got a better relationship with people. Like honestly, like. It's one of those things that I don't really look back on it with too much anger or anything else because listen, I'm very happy with the way my life has turned out, and I had some great experiences when I was up there on the road. The some of the best times of my life traveling with Axel and Eric. The biggest regret, I think, was that Nikki didn't join us. But if you look at how Nikki's doing right now, it worked out the best for her. So, like one of the main problems with what's that?
Sorry, just go back with the with the sanity with the stable is WWE, especially modern WWE, should we say, in the last 2 or 3 years. I feel like they've dropped the ball with every type of stable. Do you feel like the kind of writers they've got there might have an issue with kind of how to do stables? Because since we've had Sanity, we've had Retribution, which didn't last very long, and it was put to the bye. It seems like they're trying to split up the New Day at every opportunity they get. Obviously, with the current draft that he's done, they split them up again. It just doesn't seem like they kind of like stables, or they want the stable on the main roster.
Well, I think it comes down to what are they looking for in their talent. They want a star. They want somebody who they can package and they can promote. And it comes down, if they don't see that particular person as being a star, well then, they're not going to add people around them unless there's a reason. I mean, listen, I thought they did a brilliant job in New Day, for example, and it always feels fresh when they're put back together or when they're apart. Like, I think that all three are super talented. It doesn't really matter. Hurt Business, I know that there was a bit of a kick up because they cancelled Hurt Business, but I guess it put more attention onto Bobby's reign. So, there's you can argue from multiple sides, but in regards to Sanity and Retribution and things like that, it comes down to, like, if you want it to succeed, it'll succeed. That's the best way
I always look at
way to look at it. Like,
if you look back to the Attitude Era, as I call it, the golden era of stables, where you had DX with Triple H in it, you had The Rock with The Nation, and it's like then you had these stars, but they were given time to become stars within the stables, and they could have matches, and because you had the stable behind you, they could keep a story going for longer and kind of keep the two main stars apart for a little bit of time and whatnot. I just feel like
Absolutely.
modern day they don't really do that anymore.
I think the problem is like you're also like trying to balance a roster of 100 people, whatever else, which you would think stable would be great for that, but then they're like, well, then that means we have to bring that entire stable to a house show, which means we have to pay 4 or 5, 6, 7 people, whatever, to stand and do nothing while one person wrestles. So I'm assuming it all comes down to economics as to why stables aren't the same now as they were back then. You look at the size of our roster now compared to the roster 20 years ago, it's like treble the size, quadruple the size. So, while the corporate ministry was this massive stable, that was literally like 3/4 of the roster, or whatever, or something. So,
yeah, and just go about your main roster call up. How did it kind of come about? How did you find out you were getting called up to the main roster?
So like you hear rumors and stuff like that, like leading up to it, but nobody gives you like a definitive answer. And then randomly at a set of TVs, they pull us the three men into a room, and they've got cameras on and stuff, and you're like, okay, they're going to call us up, right? And I was like, where's Nikki? Where's Nikki? But I couldn't really see her. And then they're like, listen, the three of you guys are going up, but Nikki's not going with you. And they had this filmed, and because of our reactions, they never used the filming, because all three of us were like, well, I think it's a bad idea. We all wanted to go by all means, but we knew that Nikki was kind of integral to the Sanity Act, so it was just one of those weird situations where you can be really happy and kind of pissed off at the same time. So I think they used the footage of maybe the Iconics or something like that. The two of them were like delighted / crying while they were getting called up, but they never used ours. So we weren't as happy, but you're happy professionally, but on a personal level, like even on a professional level, we realized that she was a very specific part of the act, and she gave 100% to the character. So to not bring her with us was a slight hamstringing.
So we'll go back a little bit again before the call up. You had the ladder match at NXT Takeover New Orleans. I have to ask about it because it's my favorite ladder match.
Thank you very much.
How was it putting that match together with all those brains coming together? And
I mean, not too bad. Like, so in these kind of matches, listen, this can be problematic. And don't get me wrong, there was plenty of times where we're arguing over little things. Like one of the guys particularly was like, "Oh, I'll do this and I'll do this and I'll do this. I'll take this from him and I'll take this from him." And we're like, "Well, means you're not going to sell any of that. So we need to maybe twist it so this person does this and this person does that. But like outside of that, it wasn't too bad. I mean, that was a lot of talented wrestlers. It's a bit of a cursed match apparently, but other than the curse, it was a lot of fun to put together. Like, we wanted to make a specific point, right? Lars is the monster. He's not going to be as active. He's not going to be able to do as many things. So everything he does needs to be big. It was EC3's debut match, so we need to try and showcase him. And he's not like, he's not like as flashy as Ricochet. Ricochet is going to be a lot easier to showcase because realistically he can do 2 or 3 massive things. And we can really like highlight him. So we had to try to make a couple of big points to try and get EC3 as involved as we could. He's great talent, but you give him a microphone, he'll make gold. But it's a lot harder in this kind of environment to stand out. So we did our best to try and showcase him, and then obviously Adam, Velveteen, whatever, like they were more established and stuff like that on the product. So it was more a case of for them, like, let's just think of a couple of cool moments. Like Adam had a bit of a super kick party, and Dream did like a bunch of elbow drops and stuff like that we tried to like not make it too
repetitive.
Our kind of that's it. Our kind of goal was like, the number one goal for us was, right, when we try to climb the ladder, we're trying to run up the ladder, right? Yeah. Because the most annoying thing that you watch is people who slowly climb a ladder for no reason. Like if you've told somebody that you're scared of heights, then that's great. Okay, you can climb the ladder slowly. But see, when you watch people like doing that low, really slow climb for no reason, just because they're waiting for a spot. So we kind of made an agreement, all of us together. We were like, okay, we're just going to go up and get the belt if the other person doesn't stop us. So that was what was our mentality, all of us. And I think it was only towards the end when we started like maybe going slower and whatever else, but we tried right up top as everybody rushes to claim that thing and try to make it seem real. Because realistically, like we were trying to follow thousands of good ladder matches, like, and some incredible ladder matches when we think about it. Like, so, we knew that like we had a lot of pressure on us because I think we're the opening match, the WrestleMania weekend and everything as well. So there's this added pressure, and to follow in the footsteps of so many. Some of us had ladder matches and some of us hadn't. Right? I'd done a few like on the indies, like on a very small level, so I had a fair idea of how the structure. And then you had a couple of lads like Ricochet, whatever else, who knows that like he can shine in so many scenarios. So it was a good combination of fellas, and everybody was generally quite reasonable and quite easy to work with. We come up with some terrible ideas, and the main problem was none of us said no. So that's all of us kind of walked out afterwards, like with a few bumps and bruises, because none of us thought, hey, that wouldn't have been a good idea. We could have done something else. But no, honestly, it was one of those things. We had this crazy botch right at the end. The ladder completely shattered. And that was, and fair play to the boys who covered that, because they still made a really fun, engaging finish. Because the finish that we had planned would have been even better, to be honest. It would have been really, really cool. But, that's, all testament to those 3 lads. They did a great job to make that work, because that was a freak accident. Like the ladder literally buckles. And probably because we've hit it or whatever else. And like, I remember, even like in the build up to this, we're being asked, how many ladders do you want? And we're all looking at each other going, well, as many as fucking possible, to be honest. but apparently they needed a specific number, so apparently that wasn't enough. So
And do you know what you were saying about the finisher? Sorry to put in, Jimmy, just a quick segue here. Is do you know what you were saying about the finish to the ladder match where he's all rushing, scrambling for the title, trying to get up to the top here? Do you think your missus robbed that way for the Money in the Bank finish?
I don't want to. I don't want to give the game away, but yeah, she did. It may have been somebody's idea.
As soon as you said that, then it just pinged in my head and thought, what? Well, let's face it was a good finish, because even when you see it in the Money in the Bank one where everyone was scrambling, and Nikki just scoos in and takes the bet. It was brilliant finish.
I think the funniest part for that is like there's a weird photo where it looks like Zelina and Natalia have morphed into one person, so it's kind of a weird shot. Nikki celebrating. I can't not look at this, like this weird like amalgamation of 2 birds. You know what
I mean? So back to the ladder match. Was there any spots you guys came up with that didn't make the cut that you kind of like wished did, or did y'all just get all y'all shit in?
No, I mean, like we brought like maybe double or triple that to the table, but like you can't like. I mean, like we had an idea where maybe I was going to do a coast to coast thing, right? But we couldn't really put it in any specific part, so we didn't want to like sandwich it in. You know, so it's and I know that a lot of the other lads had ideas and stuff like that, but we just anything that we couldn't sandwich in, we just left out because it would have been another 5 or 10 minutes added to the match. And realistically, like if we'd have shaved maybe 2 or 3 minutes off that match, it might have been maybe slightly better. But like when we put it all together, like that it felt about as good as it could. We definitely cut a little thing here, a little thing there. Even up until the last hour, I think we were maybe just tweaking things because our main problem was, say we add something and then it means we're struggling to get to somewhere else. Because the whole thing for us was we'll try and leave little periods open where we're just trying to get the belt. You know what I mean? So that was kind of like we wanted to not sacrifice that part. Like there's a little bit at the start, there's a little bit at the middle where we've just left blank so that like this is what happens. Whoever goes, and then we carry on. So there was little bits on the fly that we tried to keep because our most important thing was the psychology of us trying to win. And one of the main problems is when you add too many spots, you'll have people setting up ladders for no reason, and they're not setting them underneath the title to actually try and reach the title. So that's when we got a bit picky and choosy. And one of the best things about the group of us who were doing it was nobody like fought too hard. You know, when it didn't work, they weren't trying to sandwich. So that was important because it could have, just became like, listen, it already is a spot fest, but it could have been like that step too far. And when it goes too far, that's the issue. And like, as I said, like, yeah, go ahead.
One step away from a Young Bucks match.
Honestly, the main problem is people try to copy the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are the best at what they do. It's the people who try to copy them who can't do it. And I know for a fact that I can't. But when I watch them, I know that everything they do, the crowd stays with them. So one of the things for us is, for the rest of us in the world is we can't just try to do that. You have to try and find what works for you and for the people around you. Whereas for you talk about the Young Bucks, they had that cage match. Like on the last pay-per-view, which was incredible. And if I'd have watched that with the sound off, I'd have been like, oh, maybe it was too much. But when you watch it with the full crowd popping to it for everything that they do, you're like, no, it's not too much because it works exactly into what they do. So, but honestly, like, so that's a bit of a tangent, but for us, it was a case of if we had added 2 or 3 more things and it would have added just a bit too much time. And I think that's where it would have just become rubbish.
Yeah, because the match was just beautiful.
Thank you so much. No, honestly, like one of the craziest parts is the praise we got after kind of blew us away. We did not expect, like, we thought people would like it, but we didn't expect people to like it so much. And it's one of the coolest parts of all this is like, listen, a ladder match has become almost like, okay, it's WrestleMania weekend. There's going to be a ladder match, or there's going to be a scramble, or there's going to be some sort of multi-man. So for us to get the praise that we've got still like 3 years later is awesome. And that's, a testament to everybody in the match. As cursed as the match is, the talent that was in the match was awesome. And honestly, like, to still hear people talk about it so positively is incredible. And I think I was embarrassed, particularly that we got more praise for that match than some of my favorite matches on earth. You know what I mean? So like that's the part that blew my mind. I'm literally this massive Danielson and McGuinness mark, and none of their matches got 5 stars. So, so that for me really bothered me because we go in, we're getting 5 stars, and I'm like, what, really? And I spent the weekend actually. I had a couple of friends over, and we watched. We actually watched a bunch of old ROH and New Japan stuff this last weekend. But I ended up we watched kind of the trilogy of the Danielson McGuinness matches, and they're incredible. They hold up great. And I'm like, how did this not get this? This didn't get as much praise as we did. That doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? But honestly, like, I know that with gimmick matches and stuff like that, it can be hit or miss, and we're just very lucky it all came together at the time.
Yeah. All right. So obviously after the NXT, when you went back there, you got released in the end, and you were part of a mass of releases. One thing I always ask people, and I've asked a few people that we've interviewed, Tex Talent and stuff, is, do you think that the releases were COVID related? Or do you think there's something more to it? I mean, me personally, I've got this working theory of WWE got rid of not just talent but backstage talent, and I've heard about the merging departments and whatnot, and they could be looking to sell the company based on that, because I, working in a corporate environment, to look at that myself, and it's kind of, whenever they're looking to do something like that, they want to make the company as profitable as possible. Now, I know obviously you've mentioned a few times that before you were saying about economics and stuff like that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny you mention it. Like, well, one of the things that's crazy over this whole period is they sold one of their biggest merch sellers. So, or say they released one of their biggest merch sellers. So that's where the part of it that I don't understand is if it was from a corporate background, would they not be on top of things like that? You know what I mean? So I definitely do believe that they downsized. I definitely believe that they got rid of everybody over 35, because the entire group that I was with were all pretty much the same. And, it kind of, if I think Breezango, myself, Bollywood Boys, Tony Nese, Davari, we're all around the same age. Everrise, God, like everybody there is that same kind of age group. So I'm assuming it was just, okay, who's over 35? Right, they're all going. And that's pretty much, even in the groups that came after us, a couple of them went as well. And then the crazy part is then they let go of a bunch of younger ones.
Or 35, right? The SummerSlam main event between Goldberg and Bobby Lashley, what's the combined age of them two?
Oh God, probably 80 or something, but
over 100, mate.
Over 100.
Over 100.
But at the same time, though, Goldberg is a recognizable person in wrestling, so it doesn't really matter what age he is as long as he can still move.
Sorry, I'm not saying anything against the age of the people. What I'm trying to say is, a 34-year-old getting released for being too old, to me, just doesn't make sense when you've got 40, mid-40s and mid-50s in the main event. It's like, if you've not got that time to get to them kinds of standards, do you know what I mean? When you're already at in my opinion, high standard for 34, 35-year-old. And,
I honestly, I think the main problem there is that there was a lot of experience that they let go more than anything. So, like, I'm sure it's going to be an awkward couple of years in NXT insofar as there's not that as many leaders now. And that'll be it'll be a good thing and a bad thing, because people are going to have to step up and people are going to have to get their finger out. Realistically, like, if you're not learning from the likes of Breezango and whatever else, I don't know who you're going to be learning from, So, but that's that. Listen, it's the nature of the business, and all of us, we all text each other, we all talked after, and I'm pretty confident that almost everybody on the list in the last while will definitely find their feet. Obviously, there's a few of us who are international who it's a bit more difficult for, and there are more hurdles. But generally, like, one of the best things about it is the rest of the world just got better, because there's a lot of really talented wrestlers just got released into it, and while I doubt that they'll regret it, at least in the short term, long term, you think of the amount of people who are going to be helped from being working all these people with all this TV experience. It can only be a benefit for other companies. So, honestly, like, it's one of those things, whether it's an age thing, whether it's a money thing, whether it's they're trying to sell, whatever else, who knows? Because their day-to-day changes all the time. They're, when they were stockpiling, they were hiring a lot of people. It was obvious that they were, they were amassing a hell of a lot of talent, and we knew it had to end one day. So COVID was maybe the perfect time to do it. Maybe it was the perfect storm, for them. And it's a shame for the guys, in production, the guys, from all the other parts of the industry, the business, because it might be a lot harder for them in certain industries that shut down through COVID. But for the rest, there's, it's a little easier because there will be wrestling. You know what I mean? So my thoughts and stuff like that are with a lot of the guys, the refs, the production and stuff like that who did get released.
And I've seen some on like different reports about different people when they got released and stuff like that, about, like, Mickey James, for instance, had a really bad experience with release, and I've heard some people who've had positive things to say. What was your release like? The day you got released, was it dealt with correctly, do you think? Or
well, I was in the PC helping younger talent, so it was quite a shock, to be honest. But insofar as, like, they called me, the guy who called me, then he got released himself, so it was kind of awkward. No, so it was awkward. I was in. So I like to go in on Fridays. I would help younger talent, then I would do a bit of work with Brookside and with Hideki Suzuki. So Hideki's like a trainee of Billy Robertson, so I really enjoyed doing a bit of the catch wrestling with him. I'll be rolling around with Tim Thatcher and a couple of the others. So I really enjoyed. Like honestly, I was really enjoying my time at the PC at that point, because I was training with Finlay 2 or 3 times a week, and then I was going in on Fridays to train with Brookside and Hideki. So I was I was having a good time insofar as that way, and then I was paying it forward as best I could by helping some of the younger lads. And there's a bunch of them who I was working with on a regular basis who thankfully are going to do okay. Some got released, and some who have stayed on the product. So, but yeah, that was I found out there. They were like, "You've got 90 days," because I was a main roster deal. And my immediate thought is like, shit, I have to tell my wife,
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, so what? How do you?
So were you sitting in the performance center when you got the call, or did you left at that point?
I was in the ring. And my phone kept going. I was like, for fuck's sake, what's that? So I went check. Oh Christ, I've just missed the call from Canyon. And then one of my friends texted me saying, Nice and Davari being released. I'm like, okay, I'm getting released now. So it was one of those weird, like you just kind of had the idea. But like, did I say it was coming? No, not at all. The year before, when I had sat for like a month or so, 2 months, and there was nothing really happening with me on screen. I would have expected to be cut then, but at this point, when I was on TV on the Tuesday, I think it was, and like Terry Taylor came up to me at the start of the training session saying, "Yeah, on Tuesday you're doing a thing with such and such and such." I was like, "Oh, sweet, okay." That's so. I think that I'm working the next week, and boom, you get cut. So. But that's the nature of the business. I was very lucky that I had the 90 days, because I've been waiting on my green card. So, and I didn't know how long that was going to take. So it worked out great for me, insofar as, you get paid for 90 days. And hopefully by then, the legalities get sorted. And I've been blessed that it did happen that way, but it could easily have done my 90 days, then had to sit for another 6 months, because the US is very difficult to predict. How fast these processes happen. So as I say, very, very lucky. I immediately, had to tell my wife and whatever else, but I had to tell Brookside. So because I'm, going to I have to leave the performance center. So, and like, he's got it as well, because he's one of my best friends in the industry. And it's one of those things, like, I think it's hard when it's right in front of you. You know what I mean? And but yeah, listen, like, after the first couple of days, the first couple of days were tough, because you have to try and think about, your life, what are you going to do and whatever else. But then, you start getting excited about, what's next, and what you can do going forward, because listen, everything is just a part of your life. It's just a little blip on what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So, I don't hold on to too much, and I don't worry about too much. At the end of the day, it's like, I had a lot of fun. I had some great experiences. I got to train with some of the very best. I got to wrestle some of the best. Like on house shows, or whether it was even on SmackDown or WrestleMania or whatever else, I had some incredible experiences. And everybody's name's going to come up one day, and mine just happened to come up that day in June, and fingers crossed that the next ones after me are able to figure it out as well as I have, and be as lucky as I am. Because for especially international talent, it can be a right good kick in the balls. But, as I say, we got prepared. We organized things outside of the company, and that helped us going forward.
Okay, so just to circle back very quickly, you were saying about you worked with a lot of young talent in the NXT. I know they've started debuting some new talents at the moment, like Bron Breakker or whatnot. Who would you, if you were kind of looking at the talent that you worked in the ring with, is there any kind of hidden gems, or is it somebody like Bron who you think is going to go on to be?
So I was really surprised they let go of Denzel Dejanay. He was a really talented young fella. Incredible background, and he was just starting to get his head around this. So, but I know he's training with the Dudleys and stuff like that at the minute, so I think he'll be fine. But he was a great wee talent, and I was really couldn't believe that they let go of him. But I really like the Creed brothers who are in the Diamond Mine. I train with them a lot inside the PC and outside, actually. Even after I got released, I was training with them a bit as well. So they're good lads, both incredibly agile, and you won't even see any of that for a while. But when it all clicks for them, when they've had maybe 100 matches each, whatever else, they're going to look really good. I think there's something there. They're both very confident. The older brother, I think, is Julius. He's got a really good head for this. The younger brothers, you can show him a thing and he'll immediately be able to do it. It's so that those two are going to be very talented. Outside of that, listen, Bronson Steiner, he's one of the lads. I saw him do like little bits here and there, right? And you knew that he was brand new to this, right? But he had a couple of little things that he did that were just different than everybody else. He just did this like kind of explosive clothesline out of nowhere. And I just said to him, I was like, listen, people are going to give you advice. Please don't change that, because that was so different and so unique. Like it blew my mind. And it doesn't surprise me that he's getting a shot, because, you know, he's super charismatic. He's intense as anything. Yes, he's green. Of course he's green. But he's going to be, if he's got the right people in his ear, he's going to be something. And he comes from a great line. You know, his uncle and his dad, they're both, you know, I grew up watching them. They were both friggin' incredible. Like Scott, awesome. Yes, Scott Steiner later in the industry, you know, changed how he was. But when you think early Scott Steiner, early Rick Steiner, oh my God, like they were a pair of killers, and you believed everything they did. Yeah. I remember even having their Hasbro figures and everything because of the crazy color schemes and whatever. So, but no, honestly, like if he keeps his head together, he'll do very well. I mean, there's plenty of others as well, but those three, I think, are the ones who I like the most, as well as like the likes of Denzel and whatever else. But like, listen, there's a bunch of other ones as well who maybe I didn't see as much, or I didn't train with personally. Yeah. But yeah, those three are particularly my favorites, and definitely the ones I would be tuning in to see.
Brilliant.
So you mentioned that you had the conversation with Triple H to go back to NXT. So he helped you get back down there. And then the releases happened. There was a lot of confusion online, rumors, you know how they go, where Triple H had no input on it. But then there was the next one that came out that said he was involved with the process of picking and choosing. Did you hear from him after the release? Did he reach out to you, or maybe Shawn Michaels? Did either one of them?
I heard from Shawn Michaels and William Regal like immediately, and like I had a great relationship with both of them, and a good relationship with Triple H as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but you know he's your boss. But like no, so I assume that it was him, and you know the higher ups. And like, listen, I was 36 years old. I had every intention that I know that they'd started, you know, asking me about would I be interested in doing stuff like training and stuff like that. So, you know, you've an idea that like they're aware of you know, my age, and they're aware of my experience in the business and stuff like that. So, so you know, I don't take it personally. But like, it was very nice.
Going back there as a trainer one day.
Maybe like it just depends. Like when I'm definitely done in ring, then I'll consider it. But listen, I'm not going to lie to you. They'll come to me. I won't be coming to them. You know, I've already been one of the best coaches in the world, and I'll continue to be so. So I expect that, you know, down the line, that if they need somebody, when their current crop want to move on, they'll probably come to me. And like, I hate to sound so arrogant, but you know, it is one of those things. There's a lot of great talent like who are going to be great coaches. And like, realistically, like, you know, do I see myself going back there as a talent? Probably not, unless things change. But as a coach one day, maybe. I don't know if I'd ever be a producer. I'm not sure about that. That's a completely different kettle of fish. But as a coach, maybe. But like, insofar as like the next few years, absolutely not.
And so you just go onto the missus, Nikki. I know you've been very vocal online about the Nikki SH character. You know, did you help her with that, or did you have any input with it, or was it all from her and the creative teams?
Well, it definitely wasn't anything to do with the creative team. But yeah, it was largely her and me. Yeah. Listen, that they sat on that for 6 months, the creative team, until she went to Vince with it herself. So the creative team might be able to help with it now. They might be able to come up with cool things and twists and turns, and they maybe come up with at the very end, help with the costuming and stuff like that. But that's Nikki's idea. She came up with she went to a graphic artist to come up with like a concept. We kind of come up with little things here and there. Then she brought it to Vince, and she found out like about maybe 2 months after she brought it to Vince, he said, right, we're doing it. So because obviously, like, you know, like for what a lot of people don't understand is like he's pretty switched on. And like he read about it, he knows that there's a lot of female superheroes leading movies and leading TV shows and everything else.
Yeah.
So listen, he knew it was the right time, and we need characters who can appeal to children because we've gone so far away from that like I'm sorry, 99 people can't be a badass. You know what I mean? Like you need.
No, I mean, I was
frustrated
with that character though not because of the character. Sorry, I thought Nikki done a brilliant job with the character when she won the title. I thought when she won the Money in the Bank, I thought there was so many. You know, my brain goes into overloads with these like kind of stories and stuff like that you could do. And you know, I had this whole thing where she could go from Nikki almost a superhero and finally achieve the superhero status. And I just felt like they rushed it so much, you know, and just got it through with the title. And then, you know, even when she was going back up against Charlotte, and it was like there was so much story that could be told there, and it was just like, and
the crazy part is, like, I actually think her act, like, she's really nailed it. She's really nailing the act right now.
Yeah.
Like from the like, even like, you know, she started the champion or whatever else. So yeah, like, you know, that's the nature of the business. Is, you know, you can't always predict it. You can't. You know, you're not going to get things right away. And that's one of the things that I think our main problem with this current industry, and I'm like it when it comes to football or when it comes to entertainment and stuff like that, you know, we're expecting gratification early and quickly. The truth is, like, this is something that if she'd had maybe a bit more time with the house shows beforehand, it maybe would have been ready to go, and you know, the story might have been an easier sell, whatever else. But listen, like, it ended up being a fun story. We got like a happy, you know, actual babyface who was willing to, you know, as I said to you before, appeal to kids and everything else, and like has an actual positive message for people. And you know, the beauty is that they can go in different directions after this because they've established her. That's it. She's established. Yeah. They've got her on TV every week for the last, you know, whatever amount of months. So, for at this point, like, there's less and less things counting against her. Originally, it was okay. It's a new character. It's not been on TV much. You know, blah blah blah. So there's all these things that, you know, that you're unsure of. But now, like, you know, she's entertaining. She's getting to associate with all the top girls on the show and stuff like that. So honestly, it's been fun for me because, like, you know, I've seen the process from day one, and I get to see it, you know, to present, and I'm looking forward to what they have planned down the line. Like, you know, my major worry is that, you know, they'll hot shot into something else. You know what I mean? But that's just the nature of the business. But like, listen, I know that a lot of time, effort has went into this, and I've got every belief that they're gonna stay the path right now.
I mean, hopefully, fingers crossed. As I say, you know, Nikki's been brilliant with that character. It's not a knock on her or her portrayal. It's more to do with the writing that frustrated me. It's even like after she won the title, straight away I thought she'll finish with Flair, do what she's doing there. Maybe Flair will go on with Rippy, whatever goes on there, and then you have the ready-made good versus evil, Alexa versus Nikki, and you know, it just wrote itself. And I couldn't believe they didn't do it, and I was just so frustrated with that because I just thought that could have been, you know, as you're saying there, with the superhero overcoming the evil villain, and you know, it was just hopefully something they'll look to do in the future again. I mean, the good thing about that character is, as you say, they can go in so many different directions. So, you know, let's not forget.
The beauty of her character is she can lose. You know, one of the main problems is people create characters that can't lose, and then when they do lose, they don't know what to do with them. So the beauty of her character, she can pick herself up and dust herself off. Like Riddle's the same, you know. And it's like, you know, there's always a, you know, our main problem, in my opinion, is like there's just too many people who don't know what to do with them after they lose, you know, and that's just the modern part of you know, modern storytelling. And listen, like, you know, the society has changed, the wrestling world has changed in the last 20, 30 years. Like, I get all that. But listen, you know, you still need to have an antagonist and a protagonist. And when your antagonist is trying to chase pops, you know, who cares about the protagonist? You know what I mean? So that's what I love about Nikki's character is, you know, she can get the shit kicked out of her and she'll dust herself off and she'll try, you know, live to fight another day. You know, that's kind of the best part of the character, and I'm hoping that they'll continue to do with it. Honestly, like, we're in this weird period where somebody's going to try and turn her into a badass or something. You know what I mean? And then, you know, that's it. It's over. You know, everybody's wearing leather with studs and stuff like that. I mean, okay, you know, it works for Rhea Ripley, but the other 7 shouldn't do the same. You know, like that's that's just kind of more. You know, that's my generalization against the world. Like, and this is a guy who wore leather with studs. You know what I mean? So,
well, that's why it works with Rhea Ripley, because she was the first one to do it, as you say. So someone should be totally different. But let's not forget, Bobby Lashley was in a adultery storyline with Lana, and then next minute he's in the Hurt Business and he's the champion. So it shows you that with a flick of a writer's pen, you can be in something totally different, doesn't it?
Well, listen, it always helps, you know, because that is an incredibly talented roster. Like, and this is the part I think, you know, we'll look back on this time in 10 years' time or 20 years' time and realize that is a really talented group of people. Like, so I mean, Bobby is this. He's been a bit of a journeyman, absolutely. But he's at the best period of his life because he's so talented. He's so good at what he does. And all he needed was that right moment, maybe like just to have MVP be that piece of shit beside him. And that worked great. And that's, so I'm a huge fan of Bobby. Bobby, like one of those people who, the moment I saw him, immediately I was like, okay, that guy could kill anybody. You know what I mean? And then to have him do all these, this last year has just been, well, this last 2 years. There's been ups and downs, sure, but this last while he's been pretty solid, and it's been great for him because he's the most believable guy on the roster anyway. And now everybody's buying into it, and that's the main thing.
So staying with Nikki, you got to work with her when you were doing the Sanity down in NXT. How fun was that to be able to work?
Oh, it was terrible. No, so we always tried not to work with each other when we're on the indies and stuff like that, because, like, you know, we have slight differences of opinion and stuff like that, and you don't want it to be like this issue, you know. We did like one tag match. We worked together a bunch when she first started, and then we had like 1 or 2 tag matches after, and that was about it. That's all we ever worked together. And then, you know, I go to NXT and Sawyer gets injured, and they put me into the group. And immediately I'm like, oh Christ, no. Immediately it was a lot of fun because so Nikki and Axel, Alexander Wolf, they lost themselves in the character. Like one of the best parts of doing Sanity was when I watch it back, you know, I get to remember how it felt like being around them, and you know, EY's the charismatic leader, and I'm meant to be this stoic bear in the background, right? But these two are just losing it. So it was very cool, like being able to work with them and being able to travel with them, because they, you know, they gave 100% to the angle, and it was honestly, like when I look back to those even the entrances, Christ, you know, we'd get in the ring and those two would be fucking bouncing off each other. So no, it was a lot of fun working with Nikki and the guys, because it was such a unique experience for me. Because I'd done a little bit of tag wrestling before, years before that, and then I'd been doing singles almost exclusively for years leading up to that. And then suddenly you're in a stable, and I was like, oh wow. And it was a lot of fun. Obviously learning under EY was the most important part, because EY had been a TV wrestler for so long, so he was so important for the other 3 of us. Alexander Wolf is this like jiu-jitsu technical wrestler, like who turns himself into this crazy character, like doing all this mosh pit dancing, like, and it was mosh pit dancing, and it was like, and then Nikki, if anybody saw Nikki in the indies before, she was this arrogant, loud, larger than life character, and suddenly she's this crazy, like, evil little demon, like running around the ring. So
mate.
So
you know what, right?
crazy.
My grandmother's my father and all my dad's side of the family is Scottish. And when you've got a little Scottish woman running at you, I used to be terrified as a kid. I mean, I used to just open her mouth and look up and wide-eyed, and you'd scurry away as fast as you possibly can.
I mean, that part I definitely understand. You, like, you know, I'm married to one, you know, but no, it was so much fun watching, because like one of the coolest parts, honestly, was just how they lost themselves in the moment. And that's something that, like, in wrestling, especially in TV wrestling and stuff like that, like, because you get so much you have to remember, and you so much that you have to, like, all the story points you have to do. So to see them get lost in the moment and really add to the character and to the whole experience was really cool.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so we're going to go way back now, Damo, to when you first started. Obviously, your journey through the British indie circuit, you know, several promotions, Progress, Revelant Promotion, Westside Extreme, Absolute Intense, Beyond, you know, the list goes on and on. What Culture Pro Wrestling, you were the first champion there as well. You know, when you, obviously on the indies, you perfected your craft and you learned everything that you then took on to NXT. When you went, what was it like on the indie scenes? And, you know, was that a time that you look back fondly on? And
so it was a mixed bag, really. When I first got into wrestling, wrestling was the shits, because the British scene was very weak. But like, you know, within 5-6 years, it really started to take off. So by the time we hit about, so that I started in 2004, I started training in 2004, and all the kind of the all-star crews that, you know, the boys who, the journeymen, the really good wrestlers were really hard to find at that point. You know, they maybe started retiring, they started moving on, because you know the focus became American wrestling and stuff like that. So, you know, it took me years before I started meeting the lads with the real experience. So I was training with fellas who had only been wrestling like a couple of years and whatever else, and you know, the standard wasn't great, the quality wasn't great, and the shows then weren't particularly good for a long time. Even when we had, like, say, a couple of hundred people in the building, there's very few matches I look back on fondly. My debut match actually was myself and my tag team partner Pete O'Neill against Glenn Dunbar and Grado, who Grado ended up becoming a bit of a viral sensation for a while. He's a great lad, but so I wrestled. He was like 17 at the time, and he was, you know, this trying to do all these cool spots. It's so funny how he changed. But you know, so I look back on those days. They weren't particularly good. Then the recession hit like 2008, 2009. So like it went into the doldrums a bit. Like, you know, we really struggled to put people in buildings, and like, you know, a lot of shows started disappearing and stuff like that. And then like 2010 onwards, it really started picking up. And for me personally, I started meeting a lot of the right people who were able to help me get to the next level. Like I met the likes of Robbie Brookside and stuff like that. And that just helped me get to that, you know, get the X factor that I needed, and started to think about, look at myself in the mirror, change how I wanted to present myself and stuff like that. And then by that point, so you're talking about 2011, 12, 13. So all that, you know, I was talking about the roster of people, the young ones who were coming through in 03, 04 are now suddenly got 10 years experience under the belt, and boom, British wrestling is just suddenly good. We start bringing in like people from America, Japan, Mexico, and they're realizing, holy shit, these people are good. You know what I mean? I remember like Chris Hero said something really funny. He was like, yeah, like he didn't expect outside of All Star, for example, he didn't expect outside of All Star to be so many talented people, and that's what was happening. It was happening more and more often. And by the time 2014, 2015, 2016, when, you know, you got ICW really starts kicking off, 2013, Progress 2014 starts kicking off, Rev Pro, which had been going for a long time and changed their name. They just suddenly explode. Like they've got this link up with New Japan and ROH and whatever else. And like, you know, it just got to a point where we were just having these incredible matches every month. And so many guys, I remember, like, you know, I'd see guys at certain shows, but by the time I started, you know, going with ICW, Rev, Pro, Progress, whatever else, I started looking around the roster and going, there's now, it's went from 2 or 3 people who I really like wrestling and like watching to 20 people I really like wrestling, really like watching. And that's when you start realizing, okay, this is special. There is something here. Then Drew Galloway gets released and he comes back and we have a locker room leader, you know, and stuff like that. Like, and suddenly, you know, we start looking at it going, yeah, we're pretty good now. We should really start, like, you know, doing something with this. And then boom, the fans just come in the droves. We start putting thousands and thousands of people in the buildings, and like the rest of the world starts watching us, and we start getting, you know, the eyes of the world start coming to us, and we start getting worked all over the world. You know what I mean? And that's, I remember one of the times I was in the Rev Pro, one of the Rev Pro shows, every single homegrown talent on that show ended up in WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, whatever it was. Like they were all in different companies like 2 years later. And it was just this crazy boom period. So I definitely look back at it fondly towards the end of the run. And I really, like, one of the things I loved the most was, you know, the boys who I toured with, the boys who I drove with. I had some hilarious experiences and some just brilliant experiences. Like some of the matches that I had, like if we were doing 2 or 3 shows in a day, and you're going from Fife to Coventry and weird journeys like this, just to, you know, to all these sorry, Jimmy, that's like a long distance in the UK. But you know, to try and do those, you know, try and get those shows done, like, you know, in a weekend and stuff like that. But as I say, like, it got to the point where so many of us, you know, were being watched and being scouted and getting opportunities. And honestly, like, it became very cool. But the most important part, like, for all of us was, you know, the ones who really, like, you know, had a long look at ourselves and realized that we needed to, you know, sort out our characters, our presentation and stuff like that, you know. And like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I remember when all this was really starting to kick off, and I was just trying to figure out, like, you know, what do I need to do to make this work for me? And I had like a light bulb moment. So I was about 20 stone at the time, which is about 280 pounds. And I was, you know, I still had short hair. I still had like a stubble or whatever else, but I've just started in ICW with this kind of new character I've been playing with. And the ICW commentator, Billy Kirkwood, called me the Beast of Belfast. And that was it. That was the light bulb moment for me. I knew that that's how I wanted to present myself going forward. Like, I was going to grow out the body hair, grow out the hair, everything else. And like, at the time, nobody was looking like that, and especially in the European scene. So it worked really well for me at the time. And like, all credit to Billy, like, he came up with that. And like, now it's one of those things, like the Beast of Belfast, like, it's a very regional thing. If you don't know where Belfast is, it's kind of like whatever. But
I can look out my window and see it there enough. I'm right by the Belfast ferry terminal in Liverpool.
Oh, there you go. So you see us all crawling off the boats to go to football games probably all the time. So, but yeah, so like, honestly, like, it was a very cool thing at the time, and it really helped me focus on how I wanted to go. And so I look back on like that. So that 2013 to 2016 was the craziest time of my life. Like the ups, the downs, the talent I wrestled, the places I went, I traveled to, it was outrageous. And honestly, like, my main goal for this going forward, like what I do when I do go back there, is I want to try and help the next crew, you know, coming after us, because I was blessed by the people who I met.
There's 2 ones I watched the other day. They're only the Billington Bulldogs, the Dynamite Kid's nephews.
Oh wow, here we go. I haven't seen them yet, so I'm intrigued to see how they're going to be.
If you look, I'll send you a message on Twitter with a picture of Tom Billington Jr. and he is literally the Dynamite Kid at 19 years old. He's the absolute double of him.
If he ends up being anything like Dynamite Kid in ring, then we're in for a
and I mean, they're only like
time.
90. He has got the similarities, so he does like the snap push pecs, and when he does his clothesline, he wraps it like Dynamite used to and kind of snap to the side, you know, so it really looks really good, and he does the flying headbutt. But I say they're only like the 2 of them, and they're only 19 at the moment. So
oh my god!
And I think they started just before the pandemic, and they've carried on going. I seen them in, believe it or not, Kirby the other week on a TNT Superstar show. So it was really, really good to see them. And you know, I looked at them straight away and I went, yeah, there's something definitely there. Like,
that's awesome. I'll look out for them. Hopefully I'll run into them. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I keep hearing people are mentioning people's names and stuff like that. So I'm excited, like, to get back to, especially back to Europe, to see who's next. Because like, I know that like the most important thing for me was when the likes of Drew came back and whatever else, because Drew knew that like there's a few of us who were super determined about really wanting to get to our next level. You know, both personally and professionally. So, you know, he really helped me, and he helped a bunch of others. So I'm hoping that I can have some sort of effect like that on the next crew, like whether it's in Europe or even here in the States and stuff as well. So it's brilliant that you say that about the Billington boys. I'll keep an eye out for them.
Yeah, brilliant.
Jim? So we'll wrap up with this last question for you. We're going to fast forward. You touched a little bit on WWE and how talented the roster is today. On the other side of the pond, we have AEW, who is quickly creating their own roster to possibly rival WWE. I don't think there's much of a war as people think there is, but let's just say with the roster AEW has created, with the recent signings of Malachi, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, possibly Bray Wyatt, do you think with that roster and with the homegrown talent they've built up, do you think they have the firepower to at least, I guess, compete with WWE on a grand scale for viewership? Because
look,
obviously,
the truth is, look what they've done in 2 years, close to that number, and then never surpassed it. The thing is, like that number means a lot more in 2021 because the way TV television's changed. So, yeah, I think you're talking about one of the most talented rosters on earth ever. Like that's like it was already talented before they brought in a bunch of people recently. So like there was a bunch of lads and ladies there who have so much talent. Like I think the most important part for that group is the likes of Danielson and Punk coming in to be leaders for the locker room. Yes, there's the like of Sting and stuff there, but to have kind of more recent television stars is going to be so important for them. Like with the likes of Sting, when they start going live again, doing live events and stuff like that, like they're going to get to have the experience of somebody who was, when you think about late 80s, early 90s, Sting was the man, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like he was who I got into wrestling when I was 3 years old, like he was one of the stars of my childhood. So
we used to get WCW on ITV free as well, didn't we?
Exactly. It was that was it, in 88, 89, 90, and then they took it away from us. But like the thing about that is, so you've got different generations of people who can help, but then having the likes of Dynasty and Punk and just coming in at the time that they're coming in it's maybe just what they need. They've already got the likes of the Bucks and Kenny Omega, who were the biggest stars non-WWE. Like they were bigger than most of the WWE stars. You know what I mean? So it's like now that they've got a couple of the big kind of American television stars to help
mainstream,
I think it'll take them to that next level. Because listen, I watched the last pay-per-view. It was outrageous. The special that was on the TV as well was amazing. Like, and it's like it's exciting as a neutral to just go and enjoy watching what they're doing, like what Omega and Danielson did the other day. And this is the thing, like that was given 5 stars, and I was thinking to myself, like I loved it, and I'm like, well, I need to see more. So I'm like, what are they going to do next? And that's the beauty of.
You see yourself going there?
I mean, like. Could I see myself wrestling all those guys? Absolutely. But at the same time, like we're in they've just added like so many top names to that roster. Like so, I'm going to have to prove that I need to join them. So now,
I think the thing is though as well. Sorry, just I see it like they've added Punk and they've added Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson and stuff like that. Do you not think you give them something different? Because I do. I feel like You give them a different layer of appeal and a different look and something different than what they've already got.
Well, sure. I mean, but it's one of those things. Like, what it comes down to, top to bottom, is how they want to present themselves going forward. And listen, I think they're making the right moves right now, and that's the most important thing. Like, our main problem is that we're impatient. Like impatient as fuck right now, and like we're always thinking, okay, who's next? Who's coming next? Right? The most important thing is they're building up the talented roster, and they're now like Punk's now wrestling a lot of the younger lads and giving them the experience of what he can only give them. You know what I mean? And it's and Danielson is going to do the same, and like it's going to be very exciting. Like not now, not 6 months, but in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, what this really does to the company. Because like so I'm a big fan of Miro, for example, right? And Miro, like the stuff he's been doing recently on TV has been brilliant, because like he's this devastatingly massive guy who's utterly destroying people, and then boom, he makes Sammy Guevara suddenly a star. You know what I mean? And like that's good storytelling for me. And that's what they need to get good at, is continually putting on a good story, a good TV show, because all of us were in this mental period where you can watch anything you want on thousands of streaming platforms. So why are people going to have to tune in? And that's the fun part going forward for them, is going to be, okay, we need to engage the audience and decide who wants to watch these guys wrestle and watch these stories, because all of us who got into this, in the late 80s, in the 90s, the Attitude Era, whatever else, was because we were drawn in, because it just reflected like the culture at the time. It was Car Crash TV at the end of the 90s, because Car Crash TV was what was popular. So what they need to be able to try and find is like, how do they make their product so desirable that, you know, the masses will continually tune in.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job to get to this point in 2 years. It's mind blowing. I
just think they need to more worldwide now, don't they? As well, they need to start picking up Europe market and
sure,
whatnot,
but listen, you have to nail your market first, and then you can start expanding to the rest of the world. And I mean, like, you know, really that's the thing. They're getting close to nailing North America, so you know, when they're starting to look at Europe and stuff like that, then, you know, maybe they do look in my direction and other people as well. You know what I mean? And this is the best part about wrestling right now, is whether that happens or it doesn't, with the open doors all across the world now, there's a huge chance that I'm going to wrestle a lot of those lads who I've wanted to wrestle and never had a chance, or even the guys who have wrestled before I get to wrestle again, you know. And that's kind of the forbidden door is well and truly open. It's going to be very exciting few years. And listen, like I wish them all the best, because it's only good for the industry to have competition. One of the hardest parts of the last 20 years is there's not been like a solid competition for a length of time. This is maybe the best opportunity to really see what kind of competition we can get, and it means then hopefully it'll drive both companies to really put on something really special. And as I said to you, like, they've already done special things in 2 years, so it's going to be very exciting to see where they can go.
It always makes me laugh as well, the way people go on, it's a war and they're going to put each other out of business and stuff like that. You know, people need to remember that Coke and Pepsi have lived in harmony for years. There's enough to go around if you let it, you know. So it's
not even about living in harmony. It's about, like, you want your product to be so good that it doesn't matter what the other person's doing. And that's what I hope eventually happens, is that it literally doesn't matter that there's another wrestling company, because their shit's so good that people are going to watch regardless. And that is the goal. That is the goal for anybody, like whether it's New Japan or whether it's AEW or whether it's anybody who's going to try and come through. You just need to focus on making your shit so good that that's all that matters.
Brilliant. Well, just to wrap up very quickly, I know you said you've had some really good news this week in regard to your legalities with your working and stuff like that. You know, what's next for you, Damo? What are we going to be seeing you?
So I don't want to announce it yet. It'll be announced in the next few days. But I'll be getting very busy very soon. So that's what I'm very excited about. Listen, as I said to you, like the forbidden doors are open all across the world, and that's what's going to be very exciting. Now that we're getting to the end of COVID as well, finally we can start traveling and stuff like that as well. So I'm very excited. A lot of my dates will be getting announced very shortly, and I'm very excited to share it with everybody. I'm just so excited to be getting back in the ring. I'm very excited to be going to see what's out there, mixing up with the next crew coming through, and really trying to push myself, and more importantly, like, just want to, you know, enjoy this art form that I adore, you know, and fall in love with it all over again. And that's honestly, this last week with the news that I've had, and the people I've been talking to, whatever else, it's been great to start thinking, oh shit, I need to start getting my act together and getting ready to go. So honestly, it's been a lot of fun this since we got the good news, because now I know that A, B, and C can happen. So
brilliant. Well, just I'd say thanks so much for joining us today, Damo. It's been an absolute blast, mate. It's to be honest, it feels like we've just been having a chat with one of our mates about wrestling, which is awesome. One thing before we go, Drew McIntyre impression. A couple of my mates said you've got a brilliant Drew McIntyre impression. So any chance we can hear it before we go?
Okay, hold on a minute, right? So I like doing this to him. So like it's kind of he used to get really pissed off at me, actually. So so we like, the truth is we all have a Drew impression. So Drew, right? If nobody really knows this, right? He comes from Ayr, Scotland. Ayr is a really thick.
It's from my father.
Thick brogue of an accent, right? It is a really thick accent. So he actually got crucified, you know, as he was getting on the television. So he had to do all kinds of lessons and whatever else. So the fact that he is such a good promo now is because of the sheer work he's done. So I feel really guilty making fun of him, but I'm just trying to think so. One of my favorite things he ever did was this awful promo in one of his debuts where he was like, I was walking over the moors of Scotland and I saw I was wearing my kilt and I was walking over there and I was going to show people the fist that I was going to punch them in the face with. No, so I'll stop this. But he cut this awful promo and talking about the moors of Scotland. I was like, what moors were you walking on, Drew? You know, but honestly, no, Drew's one of the best lads that I've ever met. And like, he's helped me. undoubtedly helped me and so many others. And like
he was born in the same town as me dad.
Everywhere he was.
Yeah, he's born in the same town. He's born in the same town as my father, so it's
there you go.
Always got like a little special thing for him. You know what I mean? Because he comes like literally comes from the same. You know where he's from. Here, it's not very big, is it? You know what I mean? It's quite small, isn't it? It's not a big.
Yet, it's great. Like Ayers come out with Noam Dar, Grado, Drew Galloway. You know, so for some reason, so many talented people have come out of that.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, Damo, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Obviously, really, guys, make sure you go and follow him on Twitter and look what's next, because obviously we're all excited to see where you're going to be going next. So, guys, the fucking Drew McIntyre impression's worth a thumbs up alone. Never mind anything.
I'll keep working on it, though. I'll keep working on it.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much again, Damo. And what we'll do is, as well as we will put your Twitch stream below as well in the comment section, in the description.
Everything's at Damomackle anyway, so I've tried to make it really easy. So Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, whatever. So
well, Wrestlebuddies, let's see your comments in the comment section, and obviously go over and give Damo a follow, and let's keep up to date with what he's doing and where he's going and stuff like that. And Damo, thank you so much, and we'll see you all again next time, guys. Take care.
Appreciate it, man.
Take care, guys.
There we go. Nice one, mate. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, cheers, boys. Thanks for having me. Best of luck.
No
all right,
no
have a good week.
Damo, take care, mate. Ta-ra now.
Cheers.
Later.